Welcome to the Monsters Among Us podcast. This is episode 2, Angry Bigfoot.
Hey, everyone.
We've been sifting through this really fascinating bunch of accounts that you listeners have sent over.
Yeah, it's been quite something.
And what's really jumped out, I think, is this pattern, this theme of Bigfoot acting, well, angry, or at least, very assertive.
Definitely. It's a side you don't always hear about. Usually it's all about them being elusive, right?
Yeah.
Shy giants hiding in the woods.
Exactly. But these stories, they paint a different picture, sometimes pretty threatening, actually.
Right. We're seeing reports mainly from places like Wyoming, Yellowstone, but really they stretch further out too. Other states, even Canada.
All suggesting this more, let's say, confrontational side?
Yeah. So the idea for this deep dive is to really dig into these specific instances. The ones where Bigfoot seems aggressive, maybe territorial. See what we can piece together.
Okay, let's do it. Because some of these are pretty intense. One thing that keeps popping up is this rock and log throwing.
Mm-hmm. Classic.
We even got a report from a park ranger. Said he had to close a trail. His words were because of a very hostile group of Bigfoot.
Wow, closing a trail. That's significant.
Yeah.
Especially coming from a ranger.
It really is. And he mentioned it wasn't just one incident. Hikers had reported things being thrown at them multiple times in that area.
So a pattern, not just a random one-off thing.
Seems like it. Like maybe a deliberate keep-out signal?
Could be. A territorial warning, perhaps, saying you're too close or this is our spot.
Mm.
It feels like more than just being startled.
And this ranger, he had his own pretty harrowing experience too, right?
Yeah. He and a coworker went to check things out. They ran into what they figured was the dominant one, like the alpha male. Huge.
Okay.
And this thing apparently charged right at them, nearly through a dead log.
Charged them? Seriously?
That's the report. Plus rocks being thrown, loud screaming, wood-knocking sounds, just chaos.
Man, that sounds absolutely terrifying.
You can imagine. He said it made a firm believer out of him. And yeah, they closed that trail indefinitely afterwards. That tells you something.
Definitely. That's not just a spooky noise. That's sustained aggressive action leading to, like, official safety measures.
Precisely. Now, moving on from, that kind of direct attack, we also see accounts suggesting more subtle stuff. Intimidation.
Yeah.
Like being followed.
Yeah, that creepy feeling someone's shadowing you in the woods.
Exactly. We had a hiker near Cody, Wyoming, felt something was deliberately staying with them, heard rocks rolling down hills nearby, branches breaking in the underbrush.
Just enough to keep them on edge.
Right. And that distinct feeling, that you're not alone and something is tracking you.
Did they see anything?
They did. Caught a glimpse. Upright, brown, long hair. Then it just jumped into cover.
Wow. Any details?
They mentioned arm-like limbs and a face that was kind of long and somewhat flat.
What did the hiker think it was doing?
Well, their impression was interesting. They felt like maybe it was just checking them out.
Checking them out. Not attacking, but observing.
Yeah. So not outright hostile in that moment, but definitely not random either. It raises that question again. What's the intent? Curiosity, assessment, or just making its presence known?
It's a fine line, isn't it?
It really is. And the description, short as it was, fits with a lot of other reports. But, not all encounters are aggressive, even when they're close calls. Sometimes it seems more like they're just startled.
Like the geologists near Yellowstone? That was a sudden one.
Yeah, very sudden. Driving along, and boom, this big, dark, shaggy figure pops out of a ditch right onto the highway.
Right in the headlights. Must have been a shock for everyone involved.
Absolutely. They got a decent look, though. Mentioned the yellow eye reflection, like you see in some animals at night. And they noted this very specific way its head and upper body turned together. Like not how a human turns their head.
Interesting detail. But it wasn't aggressive, despite the surprise.
That's the key part here. They were very clear it didn't act aggressively at all. It just crossed the road, took maybe 3 long strides, touched the barrier on the other side briefly with its hand, and vanished into the trees.
Wow. Big creature too, right?
Oh, yeah. They estimated like 7.5 feet, maybe 600, 800 pounds, moved very fluidly.
So massive, powerful, but in that instance, chose to just leave, even when startled by a car.
Exactly. Suggests maybe their default isn't immediate hostility, even when surprised, but then you swing back to other accounts where the actions feel much more pointed, disturbing.
Like the family in Ontario. at the cottage.
Yeah, the Madawaska Valley account. That one was
Yeah.
definitely unsettling for them. It started with these weird howls from across the lake.
Howls they didn't recognize.
Right. So they didn't sound like any known animal around there. Happened on and off. Just created this uneasy feeling.
Okay.
Then later, a big branch snapped really close to the cottage, loudly.
Getting closer.
Yeah. And then the really scary part, middle of the night, something hits the cottage. Hard. Shook the whole building.
Oh, man. That would be terrifying, waking up to that.
Absolutely. And then they heard mumbling or grumbling sounds right outside a window.
Mumbling, like speech.
Hard to say. Just low, guttural sounds, followed by this long, hard scraping sound across the side of the cottage.
Whoa. Okay, that doesn't sound like a random bear bumping into the wall.
Not at all. That feels deliberate, like a territorial marker, or maybe just pure annoyance at them being there. It's a definite step beyond just, walking past.
It feels like communication, almost. Like, hey, I'm here, and I'm not happy.
Yeah, some kind of message being sent. Yeah. Now let's look at another angle, maybe a reaction to something we do, a perceived threat.
Okay. Like the bow hunter in Kansas.
Exactly. Near the round hay bale, he sees this large, silent figure just standing near the hay.
Just standing there, not doing anything.
Initially, yeah. Just present. Could have been foraging, maybe just observing the field.
Yeah.
No immediate aggression.
Right. But then the hunter did something.
Yeah. He slapped the side of his truck, made a sudden noise.
And the reaction?
Instantaneous.
Yeah.
The figure dropped to all fours and just vanished.
Yeah.
Incredibly fast.
Dropped to all fours. Interesting.
Very. That sudden flight, that rapid disappearance after the noise, it suggests it saw the hunter's action as a potential threat, right? And chose evasion.
Makes sense. And didn't his buddy have a weird experience with deer nearby, too?
Yeah, that adds another layer. His friend saw a deer in the same area suddenly bolt, change direction, looking back into that field like something spooked them badly.
Suggesting the creature was maybe still around and the deer sensed it as a predator or threat.
It's possible. It highlights, their awareness and maybe how they react differently depending on how they perceive our actions. Sometimes confrontational, sometimes evasive.
Right. It's not just one mode. What about vocalizations? We mentioned the howls, but there were others, too.
Definitely. We have accounts focusing specifically on unusual sounds, like a hiker on the Seven Sisters Trail in Massachusetts.
What did they hear?
Whistling and whooping noises. But the weird part was it felt like the sounds were coming from all around them, encircling them.
Whoa, surround sound whistling? That's eerie.
Very. And again, they were sure these weren't typical animal sounds they knew.
So what could that mean? Announcing presence? Territorial calls? Maybe trying to keep track of the hiker?
Could be any of those, really.
Okay.
It's hard to know the intent. And then you have those stories, sometimes from childhood memories, of hearing whistles or having small stones tossed nearby when kids were walking in the woods.
Like little warnings. Don't come closer.
That's certainly how it feels. Almost like a non-violent way of saying, this is my area. Or maybe just, I see you. A low-level deterrent.
Okay. Then there was that more direct face-to-face, face-to-window encounter.
Yeah, Sandwich, Massachusetts. Pretty startling. Furry face just appears, peering in the window.
Yikes.
Then a grunt, and it just takes off running on two legs.
So quick look, a grunt, and gone.
Seems like it. Maybe curious. Then maybe startled itself by being seen or heard something inside. It wasn't aggressive, but definitely crossed a line looking in someone's window like that.
For sure. We also had that camper in Oklahoma, right? Saw a figure.
Southeastern Oklahoma, yeah.
Uh,
Classic sighting in many ways. Saw a very large, hairy, bipedal figure. Felt watched. The usual sense of awe and unease.
but something specific happened there, too.
What stood out was the reaction. While this person was watching the figure, they heard a loud snap somewhere else in the woods, like a branch breaking.
Okay.
And the figure immediately pivoted its whole body towards the sound and just moved off, away from the camper.
So it reacted to another sound in the forest.
Yeah, suggests it was highly tuned into its environment, maybe wary of whatever made the noise or just decided it was time to go. But it shows that sensitivity, that potential avoidance, even when it was initially just observing.
Interesting. They're not just focused on us. They're part of that whole forest system.
Exactly. Okay, one more. And this one is, well, pure terror, judging by the description. Late night fishing trip.
Near a reservoir.
Yep. Started with loud stick snapping nearby, then eye shine spotted in the darkness. Standard creepy stuff.
Standard, yeah, but still creepy.
But then came the noise. The listener described it as a terrible noise, said it sounded like a shrieking demon baby.
A shrieking demon baby. Okay, that's vivid.
Right. Said it just echoed across the mountains, absolutely terrified them. They just grabbed their stuff and ran, didn't look back.
I don't blame them. That kind of sound deep in the woods at night. Yeah.
It paints a picture of a vocalization meant purely to alarm, to drive something away. That raw primal sound is something that pops up in some of the most intense reports.
Definitely fits the angry theme, or at least get the heck out of here.
Absolutely. So, when you gather all these different accounts, the rock throwing, the following, the startling encounters, the property damage, the weird vocalizations, the sudden retreats, it really pushes back against that simple image of just a shy, hidden creature.
It absolutely does. These stories, I mean, yeah, they're anecdotal, but together they suggest times when Bigfoot is territorial, reactive, maybe deliberately intimidating.
Exactly. It's not always like that, we know. Plenty of accounts are just fleeting glimpses. But this set we looked at today, it highlights this other dimension, this potential for what seems like anger, or at least very assertive behavior.
Protecting their space, maybe? Reacting to threats?
Could be. Which leads us to the big question, really, for you listening. What do you make of all this? Why these displays of apparent anger? Is it just territory, fear, something more complex we don't grasp?
What does this collection of, frankly, quite scary encounters tell you about what might really be out there?
It's definitely more complicated than just a blurry photo. These experiences add some serious layers to the whole mystery.
They really do. Moves it beyond just if they exist to how they exist and how they interact with us.
Lots to chew on there.
Definitely is. We'll leave you with that thought. Thanks for diving deep with us today.